Guys, Eli here, back for another CD collection video. To my newer subs, how that works is I basically just take 10 CDs off my shelf in mostly alphabetical order, pull them off the shelf, show them, and talk about them. So yeah, I got 10 CDs here. Actually, I have 12, so you're getting kind of a bonus. But let's get started. So in my Immolation CD collection video, you might remember that, if you saw it anyways. You might remember that I was missing one CD that I somehow misplaced, couldn't find. It was really bothering me. In fact, it was pissing me off. Finally found it. So this is 2007's Hope and Horror EP by Immolation. This came out on Listenable Records. So in their discography, this pretty much falls right between Harnessing Ruin and Shadows in the Light. Sound-wise, I would say they're really good songs. I would say they're kind of pushing more towards the Shadows of the Light sound, which was seeing them with kind of like a little bit of a better production and a little bit less dissonant. I hate to say it, and I don't necessarily mean it in a bad way, but a little bit more of a refined, almost stripped-down Immolation, which is almost what I like about Shadows in the Light, and it's also what I don't like about it. I think the album sounds great. I think the band does a good job at playing death metal. It's a little more stripped down, but I miss the more dissonant technical stuff because that's what I like about Immolation. So I always have conflicting feelings about that era of the band. So this comes with a bonus DVD, by the way, and oops. Anyways. It is a complete live set, and it's awesome, because Immolation are a great live band. Yeah, filmed on location April 30th, 2006 in New York City. Also from one of my last few videos, another CD that I couldn't find in my Imperium Decadence collection. I have their third album from 2010, Procella Vadens, I guess you would call it. No need to talk too much about it. I've shown this CD on this channel. I've talked about this band a lot. Season of Mist Records. It's a promo copy. Just really, 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 really good German atmospheric black metal. If you haven't heard Imperium Decadence, I think you should look into it. This is the debut album from 1998 from Swedish melodic death metal band Imperial Domain, with In the Ashes of the Fallen. So this band formed in 1994. They are kind of one of the lesser known Swedish melodic death metal bands, and I'm no expert on this band. I don't know them that well. I think they have a few other albums. This came out on Pulverized Records, by the way. But if you like that really good, Swedish melodic death metal from the 90s and even early 2000s, I think you should check this out. It's actually really, really good. Check out this band picture, by the way. Oh my god. But anyways, it's really, really good, kind of guitar-driven melodic death metal. You could tell all these guys, they were really young at the time, but already fairly serious musicians. You could tell these guys are not just fans of music, but they're fans of musicianship. I feel like for such a young band, some of the virtuosity on some of the guitar solos on this album are just definitely above average. And I have the debut album from 1990 from Impetigo, Ultimo, Mondo, Cannibale. Is that how you pronounce it? And you might know, if you know me very well, Impetigo are one of my favorite bands. Absolutely love this album and this band. This is not my favorite. I prefer their second album, Horror of the Zombies, but this is still really, really good. Like I said, this came out in 1990. It was their first full-length album. Up until this point, they had some EPs and some demos, and it's funny because if you listen to any of that stuff, it was much more like punk and grindcore. This album would be the first thing to see from this band where they really started to become a death metal band. Still some punk elements and definitely some grindcore elements, but yeah, this is where they started to really, really incorporate death metal into their sound, and on their second album, they would become even more death metal sounding, but that's kind of what gives this album its charm, because you see a bit of the Impetigo that you would see in the near future, and you kind of saw the old Impetigo all kind of thrown into a blender. So this is the 2006 Razorback Records version, by the way, and it's really nice. I mean, Razorback has always done really good work. So if you're looking to get a copy of this album, I would definitely recommend this version because it's just super nice, really, really, really well put together. The layout, everything's perfect. And the only other Impetigo thing I have on CD, I have some stuff on vinyl, but on CD I have this Impetigo Blood split. The Blood side is Salvation to the Dead, and the Impetigo side is Antifato. This came out in 1991. So if you don't know Blood, they were a grindcore band from Germany. Grindcore band that incorporated elements of death metal and even at times a little bit of black metal. Really, really good grind band, though. One of my favorites. I'm not a big grind guy, I gotta say, but Blood have always just, for some reason for me, they just hit that sweet spot. Came out in 2015 on Bizarre Leprous Production, and which they did a great job, by the way. Signed by Mark from Impetigo. It says, Eli, cannibals are in the streets. Awesome. Really nice layout to this, as you can see. I bought this directly from Mark, probably back in 2015, so I don't know if any are left. Then we have the only CD I own from Impiety out of Singapore. One of my favorite bands, probably my favorite band out of Singapore. This band formed in 1990. You're probably well aware of who they are. They're kind of, at this point, they're pretty legendary. Fantastic band. I've heard most of their stuff, and they have never steered me wrong. So this album is no different. So I have Ravage and Conquer from 2012. This is their 8th full-length album. These guys have stayed very, very steady and consistent. Lots of lineup changes, as you might know if you're a fan of the band. You got the one guy, I can't remember his name, this guy right here. He's the only founding member left. It's him and whatever musicians he decides to get together to form a lineup at the time. And it's almost, it's not uncommon for there to be a different lineup on like every Impiety recording, but they're all awesome. Just great black death metal. Started out a little bit more on the black metal side, but they slowly would add more death metal elements. If you like stuff like, if you like Blasphemy, you definitely like Impiety. The early stuff was more, take like Immortal meets Angel Corpse. Angel Corpse would be another good reference. If you like Angel Corpse, Impiety are for you. Then I have this compilation from 2001. The only thing I own from Sweden's In Aeternum. This is Past and Present Sin. So this is just a compilation of stuff that the band did anywhere in between like 95 and 2001. It's just kind of random tracks, some live tracks, some unused stuff like that. It's all good material. This came out on Necropolis Records, by the way. And In Aeternum are a good band. Just kind of a no frills black death metal. They definitely sound Swedish. Not the most dynamic band, but if you like your meat and potatoes, black death metal, yeah, they're a good band. Only album I own to this day from In Flames. Their third album from 1997, Horacle. You obviously know who In Flames are. Formed in 1990 in Sweden, they are one of the formative melodic death metal bands, probably the most popular melodic death metal band of all time. That's debatable, but whatever. This came out on Nuclear Blast. This is not my favorite thing they would ever do. I much prefer their second album, but this is not bad. This is pre-suckage In Flames. They're still, this thing is just riff after riff. There's got to be like 100 riffs on this album, and they're actually all really good. They would kind of start to drop the ball right after this album, I think. Although the two following albums after this are okay. Not something I'd really want to listen to this day, but they're still decent. And I can throw this album on every now and then, and it kind of still holds up. The remaining 4 albums I have are all from Incantation. I love them. You love them. Your friends love them. They are just one of the best death metal bands of all time. Incantation formed in 1990 in New Jersey in the U.S. And so what I have here is technically it's considered their third album, Upon the Throne of Apocalypse. I don't really know why they consider it their third album, or at least that's what Metal Archive says. I should probably go off that. This is basically the same tracks as their second album, Mortal Throne of Nazarene, but it's an alternate mix. This was the original mix of the album that was not used. It's basically all the same tracks, but they're inverted. Just flip-flopped all the tracks. So this is a much more raw recording than the version you probably heard. Some people like this better. Some people consider this the definitive version. I personally am much more partial to Throne of Nazarene, just because that's the one that I've spent more time with. I've actually only had this for whenever it came out a couple years back. Yeah, 2019. I had never even heard it before, so it's definitely a lot more raw, and I guess you could say that rawness kind of adds a little bit more of an evil touch to an already evil sounding band. But yeah, I don't prefer this mix to the the one that we got in the end. But it's still a cool kind of piece of history to have, I guess you could say. Then I have their EP from 1997, The Forsaken Mourning of Angelic Anguish. This came out on Relapse Records. They used to be signed to Relapse for quite a while, actually. This is a really fucking good EP. So at this point, their original vocalist, Craig Pollard, he was already on the way out, so he's actually considered a session vocalist on this album, on this EP. But it's phenomenal. This is just more good Incantation. I think the songs on here are as good as anything they've ever done. You got a death cover, Scream Bloody Gore, a couple of bonus tracks too that the original version I guess didn't have. So very, very much worth getting. If you don't have this, definitely add this to your Incantation collection, because it's like I said, it stands up with anything they've ever done. I've shown this recently because I only picked this up a couple of weeks ago. This is their 6th album from 2002. We're talking about Blasphemy. Got this really nice version that Hell's Headbangers put out recently with a really cool slip cover. The original cover art looked like that. I have not spent much time with this album. I've heard it in the past. Haven't listened to it since I bought it, but I always thought it was a great album. I will say I think everything Incantation have done has been really good. I don't even come close to disliking anything in their discography, so this album is no different. I don't want to use the term more of the same because I don't like that. It's not my favorite Incantation album, but it's all the Incantation albums are at least 8 out of 10. So yeah, this for me is probably a solid 8 out of 10. And the last thing I'll be showing today is the 7th album from 2004. We're talking about Decimate Christendom. I believe this was the first album where John McEntee stepped up and started doing vocals. So I will say this is not his strongest vocal performance. He would actually get much, much better. It's still good, but you can still tell he hadn't quite found his footing. Subsequent albums, fast forward to this day, I think he sounds amazing. I actually prefer his vocals. I would not want Craig Pollard coming back. I think John's vocal style, he's really came into his own. Yeah, he has no need to get a singer at this point. So this came out on Olympic Recordings. This is a strong, strong album. This is actually, again, I have a hard time ranking Incantation albums because I really do love all of them. But this is, for me, this is up near the top. This is probably a top 6 or 7 Incantation albums for me. So definitely get this one if you don't have it. It's well worth having. Anyways, that's all I got. I'll be back later this week. As always, thanks for stopping by. We'll talk soon. Cheers.